Happy New Year! Welcome back to the Mortgage IQ Show, where we talk everything sales and marketing in mortgage banking. I'm Stephen James.
And I'm Chris King.
And at Mortgage IQ, we've been designing sales and marketing systems in the mortgage industry for over 30 years. Today, we're going to be talking all about what's in your 2020 marketing plan. We're going to be looking at new trends in the industry and taking a look at how we can keep up to date, stay relevant, and stay competitive in this increasingly competitive business. So let's get right into it. New year. Chris, what are you seeing in terms of, latest trends or changes, things that are shaping the industry for the new year?
Yeah, so I think that as I look around in 2020 and look at the landscape of mortgage lending, I really see three major things going on here. So one is a lot of increased competition. Borrowers have many more options now for finding a loan transaction than they did in the past. So it used to be kind of a who you know world, referrals and whatnot. Nowadays, of course, it's a lot of online. A lot of the millennials are doing a lot more research.
Sure.
And not to say that they're going to go with those online lenders all the time. It's still about relationship, but it just creates noise and it creates potential competition. So I see that going on. I see with all of the regulations and compliance, there's increased pressure for profitability for a mortgage lender. So there's greater pressure on proper execution, watching your P&L, watching the expenses, the overhead, all of that. So that's a big concern. And then lastly, goes with that is finding the right talent. As I always say, getting the right people on the bus, and finding the right talent has been a challenge because over the years, especially with the last economic meltdown, the Great Recession of the late 2000s, a lot of people who were in mortgage have left the industry, are not coming back due to the challenges there. So it's often a tight labor market as it relates to finding the right people.
Gotcha. Yeah. So there's obviously things are heating up. They're getting, faster pace in terms of tech. Like you mentioned with the millennials, everyone is used to being reached and catered to in the digital online space. So you really got to be present or you're going to miss out. In terms of, getting started, but let's back it up before we even get into, the marketing materials, content, digital practices, what have you. It seems like you would need to have like a good, sales and marketing system or a CRM system in place to just kind of, get your organization into the next, the new era of creating a marketing system for your people. Can you touch on maybe, what that would look like in terms of improving efficiencies in marketing?
Yeah, I think you really nailed it. I really look at the word efficiency in terms of defining the way you're going to compete and the way you're going to be profitable. You've got to be efficient, and you have to really leverage your available resources in this marketplace. So I think the big areas are increasing your efficiencies in your marketing efforts, in how you go about tracking leads as they come in. How are you tracking those leads and opportunities? How are you tracking and executing on the workflow for that lead follow-up? And then that segues into your sales follow-up routine, whether you're running a branch office with 5 or 10 loan officers, or maybe you're a national call center, consumer direct, or maybe you're running a wholesale brokerage or a correspondent lender, and you're managing, many account executives. So it's all about having that systemized flow for lead and sales follow-up. And then I think lastly, you really can't forget that, like I said, it's all about having the right people on the bus. So you've got to make sure you're efficient at your recruiting effort as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think even to go a step further, it was the right people in the right seats on the bus. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So it sounds like there's a need to really have control and visibility over your org and make sure that everyone is working to their full potential. You're synchronized as a group, And I think another word that or another concept is tracking as well, and just and visibility, and staying sharp. So that kind of brings me to the next thing. So you mentioned compliance, just kind of higher standards there. How would a system like this help in that area?
Yeah, I think that's a great segue. So when I use the term efficiency, it's great to throw that term out, but how are you able to execute on efficiencies gained without having something tangible that you can utilize as your tool, as your main core platform, so to speak? So we then use the word systemize. So you've got to really systemize all of these processes to be more efficient. You can't just talk about it. You can't just wing it. It's got to be in a system. So we start talking about gaining efficiencies through standards, greater execution for compliance, your what I call your daily groove. You mentioned, awareness and whatnot, visibility. We live in a world of, you don't know what you don't know. And
True.
if you systemize things, you're going to just be more aware of a lot of different things, whether that be opportunities that are going untapped, or just awareness of issues or problems, or even a lot of the systemization can lead to greater abilities in sales coaching. So just to pick up on again some of those opportunities, maybe some of those weaknesses that some of your sales team might have that you can analyze.
And it seems like too that you would maybe cut down on some of the cost or the man hours with some of your processes. I've kind of seen that a lot in terms of, with automation and just having having a smart system, so to speak, kind of check your boxes in terms of the process for you and for your customers as well.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I think that really ties into the, I mentioned the challenges that people are having with, hiring good talent. So if you're not able to find enough people, then the next best thing is, like I said, you've got to make sure you're exploiting those resources. So if you're able to do more business with less people, if that's the situation you're in, then systemizing and having that system and that platform in place is going to be all the more important.
Sure, that makes sense. In terms of also like seizing opportunities, data mining. Obviously, data is crucial, and can you touch a little bit about how like a system like this might hook in, so to speak, to other systems, other sources of data for our business, and kind of enable you to really milk those leads, or really get the most out of those sources of info, so to speak?
Yeah, that's a great point. You really need to be able to have access to the data that's going to help you to be more relevant in your marketing communications. So it goes way beyond just, hey, I've got a person's name and phone number and address and email address, and I'm just going to start blasting them. In today's world, marketing communications has got to be more relevant, because if it's not relevant, it's not going to be looked at. So you've got to have the data so that you can properly query that data, filter it so that you can get to a more surgical type of marketing target in your audience with the content you're going to be sending out.
Gotcha. And maybe this is throughout the cycle with the customer, and as things kind of progress in terms of knowing and using informational bits about the customer, whether it's like a milestone in their in their situation, a birthday, personal information about them, and I guess maybe kind of bringing that into the actual marketing materials or strategies that you use yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, it's got to be more surgical. The days of doing those just generic blast emails, or a lot of
Yeah.
people are doing text messaging and all that. That's all well and good, but it's got to be more personalized. So you've got to be able to get to that data. What data might that be? A lot of it is loan transaction data from a borrower. You've got access to a lot of information about a borrower from that loan application. And boy, you just really need to exploit that information.
Sure. So you mentioned texting, and I guess those new touch points of marketing, and being able to use a database for that. So let's dive into that a little more and kind of talk about how this kind of system can help with those things specifically. We talked about the millennial group taking over in the marketplace. Largest generation of buyers, as I think we all can surmise, 37% of the market in terms of the latest National Association of Realtors report. These guys, from my marketing experience, these guys are, they're used to being reached in every touch point, every situation. They are also, I think we could argue, the least knowledgeable about the home buying process in terms of previous generations. And they're also have grown up with the magical Google or internet content. So they're, like you said, they're used to having highly personalized content, relevant content, being educated with marketing, and not so much being quote unquote sold to. How can a system like this help in those areas?
Yeah, those are all great points. I think you really just need to be aware of the changes you need to be making. It's very easy, very inexpensive to just do an email blast. We all know that. Email has been going out in your marketing systems for the last, 2 decades, right?
Sure.
But now it's changing. So with the next generation coming up, they don't look at emails a lot, and not to mention even the people who do look at emails, they're getting so bombarded that they're just overwhelmed. And so you really need to start mixing it up. I'm not saying get rid of emails, but you've got to start mixing that up, that communication with other types of messaging going out that are really just as efficient. Again, if you have that system and that engine to do it, they're just as efficient, and you're going to get a greater response by using tools like texting. That's been a huge increase in response based on that. Whether you're texting to a borrower with a loan status, or you're texting a real estate partner on again, it could be a loan status or a milestone that's been reached on a loan transaction. They just love getting information via text as opposed to email or even a phone call. Hate to say it. And then phone calls are taking on a new dynamic, and that is, we're all busy. So making a phone call, yes, it's very personalized, but chances are you're going to get voicemail. So, hey, why not just record something that is designed to go out automatically given a certain scenario, and it's extremely efficient. It's still personalized. And so voicemail drops or recorded voicemails going out as part of a campaign can be a huge win there.
Sure. So, so again, tying this back to a system, like a CRM marketing system, not only would you have access to using this technology for, texting, voicemail drops, all that kind of stuff, in addition to standard email and, using the traditional methods. But like we mentioned before, maybe tying that all back to the data, to a healthy, robust, organized, set up database that's connected with, I guess, multiple databases. If you think about it, bringing in information from various sources, LOS, all those kinds of areas, and really being able to utilize the bits of data about that customer, that deal, and then also tracking history and the progress with that, right? So, it's one thing to do the footwork with the marketing, whether that's contacting a person in a variety of formats, but maybe also getting smarter about, you're tracking your progress. When's the last time you contacted this person? Do they respond to the phone calls? What has been the best successful method to get to this contact?
Yeah, absolutely. You can't just keep doing the same thing and hope for a different result and not being able to track maybe your conversion results for those various efforts. So you've got to really be in touch with that. What's working, what's not working. Hey, maybe talk to a borrower or two, or talk to a realtor, or talk to one of your clients and say, hey, how would you like me to communicate with you?
Sure.
And it sounds really like, the thing you would do, but you'd be surprised how many people don't do it. They just assume that they need to do certain types of marketing, and gosh, that's just what everybody's doing, so I'm just going to do that. But I think you could do a little more research with it, get feedback, and just learn and partner with your client base to discover together what's going to work.
Sure, that makes sense. And again, we're in 2020, so it's the digital era, it's the smart era in terms of tech, especially financial tech or fintech is really taking off, and people have access to all sorts of digital methods to do services, to carry out tasks, and to track results. So for our bread and butter, our sales, our business, it totally makes sense to have a fully comprehensive system that'll help with this task.
Yeah, no doubt. Just one thing to add is that, I know a lot of these guys go to these conferences about, how to improve your marketing and your sales efforts, and everyone gets excited, and they come back to their office, and the first thing to do is they just start putting out fires, and
Sure.
and then they're just trying to get there and trying to, get to that the new frontier of, improved marketing and efficiency and all that. But the bottom line is that unless you have a system, and really most importantly, unless that system is automated in terms of these touch points we're talking about, it's probably not going to happen.
Sure. Let's talk about let's go the other way. Let's just say, folks that you've seen who don't utilize a system like this, what are some major tangible pain points that you see them struggling in? We talked about wasted time, wasted resources, obviously missing out on opportunities. Can you dive a little more in terms of just things, we're trying to get people out of, things that you would hope a business could avoid with,
Yeah, it's all about habits, and it's mostly, it is what it is. Most people in the business, whether you're in sales or marketing, in a lot of cases, it's a reactionary kind of groove. So you're reacting to the phone calls, you're reacting to emails coming in, and to get to that next level, it really needs to turn into a proactive model. And like I said, the struggle with that is, how do I become proactive? When most people come into their offices, they instantly go into a reactive mode. I'm responding to emails and phone calls and putting out fires, and they never get to the proactive, either because they're just busy with being reactive, or they just don't know how to do it. They just don't have the ability to get out of that groove. And so if you can utilize the technology and systemize things, once that gets configured, being proactive is also being automated. So
Sure.
if you can automate that proactiveness, that really is the home run.
Got it. That makes sense. Okay, so that sounds good. I think we have some good touch points of overview of what, how a system, how a CRM marketing system, lead management system can really, bring your business into the next decade, so to speak. What do you see in terms of kind of leading the charge into adopting a system like that, or utilizing that? Kind of give us an overview of how you see things being put into place.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. So the analogy I use is that our role as the implementer of the CRM, we've been doing this for a long time.
Sure.
It's kind of like the couple that is going to put on a wedding, right?
Uh-huh.
And sometimes you'll have a wedding planner, sometimes you don't, sometimes it's the photographer. But unless you have that person there at the wedding that's telling them when to do things, when to take pictures, when to cut the cake, the first dance and all that, if you don't have that person facilitating, you could end up with a disaster wedding
Sure.
reception, right?
Cake in the face.
So I kind of look at us as the wedding planner, but we can only go so far. We've got to have someone on the client side. So someone's got to be in that lending organization who is responsible for executing, putting in that CRM sales and marketing system. And then we can team with that person to run the show. And then the other important thing is that, really, unlike a wedding reception, This is never ending. So you're going to, you're going to implement your system, but it's ongoing. You're always going to have, things that need changing or modifying. You've got to motivate your team to embrace the technology and to change their grooves and their daily workflows. You've got to have someone who's being proactive at bringing those people along, and they'll come along. You can't rely on the sales team, every single person, to be a leader in this change.
Sure.
That's not going to happen. It's going to be you might see maybe 10 to 20% of your team that's going to do that. They'll be more proactive and disciplined. But think about it. 80% are not going to do that, and they're looking to be led
Sure.
to that promised land. And so that's really needs to be that person's role. And then the other thing is to kind of tie back to the talent issue. We're finding that clients that have a system like ours that's mechanized and systemized, greater efficiencies, and bringing in more business and profitability. Today's top producing LO or salesperson is looking for a business that has those things in place, so that
Sure.
they know that they are going to perform better just by becoming a member of that organization.
That makes sense. Because you're bringing in new, just like with your customers, also in the business, you're bringing in new generations of, people coming in used to this technology, used to smart tools,
Right.
and being empowered, I think, is the key word there. So that totally makes sense that, even just to like you said, bringing it back to acquiring talent, to really become like a key leader and a key business that'll attract that talent, you need to provide the tools and the system in place to really enable your people to do good business.
Yeah, no doubt. And you just got to remember that when you're recruiting that talent, you're competing with someone else that might have all these tools
Sure.
and systems that maybe you don't have, and they're going to have a leg up on you.
Sure, that makes sense. Okay, I think that's a great overview today. Again, just kind of summing up, for I guess part A of our 2020 marketing plan. Let's just get a system. Let's get into the smart decade, the 2020s, the Roaring 20s. And let's roar. So let's bring in a system. Let's automate. Let's track. Let's get visibility, and let's stay competitive that way. Again, if you have any questions, you can reach Chris or myself via this channel or our website, which is listed below. And feel free to stay tuned for the next edition.